To what do you attribute the decision of the Archbishop to invite Bishops Duncan and McPherson, despite the presiding bishop's request to invite only Catherine Shorey?
Well, Rowan himself has spoken to this. I mean, I think he thinks that the situation in this province is a lot more complex than it's painted in the media and that a lot of people think, and I think that's true. There's a lot of people who are very discontent with not simply the direction, but the increasing space between this province and the wider communion, and who want to do something about it, but want to do it in such be done, respected. And I think the fact that it's not simply Duncan but also McPherson represents both of those people. I mean, Duncan's a little more out there, but he's still the leader of a diocese and the leader of the Anglican Communion Network, most of whose membership is still slogging it out in the trenches in many very difficult situations in the Episcopal Church. And I think what you have is a number of dioceses that want to stick with the communion. And that number of dioceses is beyond simply the Anglican Communion Network diocese. And I think Rowan Williams understands that, and that's one of the reasons why somebody like McPherson is there. The hard question is, what are they going to do about it? And one thing I really do want to say to you is, I've been alarmed by how many people in the blogosphere and elsewhere have been saying that they expect enormous action from this meeting. I just don't think that that's realistic at all, and I don't understand why people are saying that, except that they've got so much frustration, they want something tangible. But I don't think it's realistic at all. I mean, if you look at the last two primates meetings, it's worth revisiting both of them. I mean, a whole lot less was done than many traditionalist or conservative people would hope for. And that was significant. They gave a warning, a very strong warning in 2003. We'll tear the fabric of the communion at its deepest level. And in Drummondine, they modified the Windsor Report to make border crossing language less strong. And they said specifically the Episcopal Church needs to withdraw on a temporary basis from the ACC. So that was a very mild form of Anglican discipline. But that was nowhere near, in both cases of those meetings, what people are hoping for. And here I'm reading, just to give you a very graphic, for instance, people actually believe that they're going to propose the possibility of a new province. Now, I'm asking people to be realistic. I mean, how do you get that kind of a radical proposal out of this kind of a group with this recent history? I think that they face some very challenging decisions, but the reality of the real politique of the situation is they aren't going to do nearly as much as some of the people think. And I just want to keep stressing to people that this whole process is going to take longer than a lot of people think. I see Rowan Williams playing the long game. I think that he ultimately wants to put ACUSA in the position where they are challenged to opt in or opt out themselves, and some kind of temporary intermediate situation is something that he's willing to live with, as long as people of traditional faith can have a viable ministry in future without being squashed. But I think he really wants to get to Lambeth 2008 if he can figure a way to do that. And I think he's coming into that meeting with this desire. And the North Americans are coming into the meeting desiring to portray it as business as usual and to say that they did enough to meet the Windsor Report, which is absolutely untrue. And I think the Global South is really frustrated and in a number of cases, frankly, fed up with the defiance, the arrogance, and the unilateralism of the American church. And then the degree to which the American church, having done all this damage, wants to say to the rest of the community, we get to evaluate ourselves, and that's the evaluation that matters. So we're supposed to believe, because the American church says that they've done nearly enough and we should accept it, that that's good enough. And if you actually look under the surface, we didn't do anywhere near what we were asked to do. And in the key areas, we were absolutely opposed to what we were supposed to do. A notable example being, we had the opportunity to affirm Lambeth 1998 Resolution 110, and we were never given the opportunity to do that. There was another resolution which had the specific example of the Windsor Report, quoted verbatim, about the authority of Scripture. That didn't happen. BO33 didn't even express what we were supposed to do in that inadequate resolution at the level of the Windsor Report. It didn't say, people in same-sex committed, non-celibate relationships who are bishops. It gave that language of problematic, causes a problem for the communion type of language. And the Windsor Report said the election and approval and consecration was the idea of the Windsor Report, and this is only on the approval. It didn't say anything about the election. So at almost every key level, the Windsor Report standard was missed by the Episcopal Church. That's going to be a debate that's going to have occurred near the beginning of the meeting before you get to the what then questions, and I think it's going to be pretty contentious.